You're staring at your bank account again, not because you need to, because you're hoping something changed. Like maybe the numbers rearranged themselves overnight. Like maybe this time you'll feel different about what you see. But it's the same. It's always the same. And that quiet tightness in your chest, that's not about money. That's about what the money represents. Options you don't have, moves you can't make, conversations you avoid. You tell yourself you're being responsible, careful, smart. But deep down, you know the truth. You're not being careful, you're being small. And the worst part? You weren't always like this. There was a version of you that saw possibility everywhere, that walked into rooms believing something was about to happen, that said yes before you calculated the cost. But somewhere along the way, scarcity rewired you, not in one moment, in 1,000 tiny ones. The raise you didn't ask for, the investment you talked yourself out of, the opportunity you watched pass because the timing wasn't perfect. Now your brain doesn't see doors, it sees walls. It sees risk. It sees all the ways things could go wrong, because that's what survival mode does. It keeps you alive, but it keeps you small. There's a term for this. Psychologists call it scarcity mindset, but that phrase makes it sound like a choice, like you woke up one morning and decided to think small. It's not a choice. It's a cage your nervous system built to protect you. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, your brain allocates nearly all of its bandwidth to immediate threats: rent, groceries, that bill you forgot about. There's no space left for strategy, no room for vision, no capacity for the kind of thinking that builds wealth. You're not lazy, you're not stupid, you're just surviving. And survival has a cost. It costs you the ability to see past next week. It costs you the confidence to negotiate. It costs you the creativity to build something new. Every decision you make is filtered through one question: can I afford to lose this? And when that's the only question you ask, you stop asking the one that actually matters: can I afford to win this? Here's the truth most people never realize. Wealth doesn't follow a straight line. It follows a curve, an exponential curve. And right now, you're standing on the flat part, the brutal, thankless, invisible part where you're doing all the work and seeing almost none of the results. This is where most people quit. They look at their savings after 6 months of sacrifice and think, this isn't working. They see someone on social media with a new car and assume they're doing something wrong. They abandon the plan because the math doesn't feel fair. But here's what they don't understand. The flat part of the curve isn't the punishment, it's the price of admission. Everyone who has ever built real wealth stood exactly where you're standing right now, frustrated, impatient, wondering if it's even worth it. The difference? They didn't stop. They understood that the first $20,000 is not about the money. It's about becoming the kind of person who can build $20,000. It's about rewiring your brain, training your discipline, proving to yourself that you can delay gratification long enough for compound interest to take over. Because once you reach that threshold, everything changes, not gradually, dramatically. Research shows that having just $2,000 in emergency savings increases your overall financial well-being by 21%. $2,000, that's not life-changing money, that's breathing room. That's the difference between panic and perspective. That's the space your brain needs to stop reacting and start thinking. Now imagine what $20,000 does. It doesn't just give you options, it gives you power. The power to walk away from a job that's killing you. The power to say no to opportunities that don't serve you. The power to take calculated risks that used to feel impossible. This is what people mean when they talk about walking away money. It's not about quitting, it's about negotiating from strength instead of desperation. When your employer knows you need them more than they need you, they own you. When you have a cushion, you own yourself. You can ask for the raise. You can set boundaries. You can leave a toxic environment without the terror of wondering how you'll pay rent. That's not just financial freedom, that's psychological freedom, and it changes the way you carry yourself in every room you enter. But there's another layer most people miss. Being broke is expensive. It sounds backwards, but it's true. When you don't have money, you pay more for everything. You pay overdraft fees because your account dips below zero. You pay late fees because you couldn't make the payment on time. You buy cheap products that break and need replacing. You pay monthly for insurance because you can't afford the annual discount. You buy in small quantities because you can't afford to stock up when things are on sale. This is the poor tax, and most people pay it without ever realizing it. $20,000 in the bank doesn't just give you peace of mind, it eliminates an entire category of expenses that were silently draining you. It lets
lets you buy quality once instead of cheap twice. It lets you pay annually and save 15%. It lets you avoid the fees that were designed to keep you trapped. Suddenly, money starts working for you instead of against you. And that's when the curve starts to steepen. See, the first $20,000 takes everything you've got: discipline, sacrifice, saying no to things you want. But the second $20,000, it comes faster. Not because you work harder, because you've built momentum, because compound interest is starting to whisper, because your money is finally pulling its weight. This is the crossover point, the moment when your capital starts contributing more to your net worth than your labor does. Most people never reach it because they treat their first milestone like a harvest instead of a seed. They hit $10,000 and buy a car. They reach $15,000 and take a vacation. They reward themselves before the compound has a chance to compound. And then they wonder why they're starting over again. The people who build real wealth understand something different. They understand that the first $20,000 is not a prize, it's a foundation. You don't eat the seed, you plant it, and then you protect it while it grows. This requires a shift that goes deeper than strategy. It requires a shift in identity. You can't build wealth by going on a financial diet. Diets end. Diets assume you'll eventually go back to normal, but normal is what got you here. Normal is why you're staring at your bank account hoping the numbers changed. You don't need a diet. You need to become someone different. Someone who saves because that's who they are, not because they're trying to hit a number, not because they're following a plan, because saving is part of their identity now. The way athletes train even when they don't feel like it. The way writers write even when the words won't come. The way disciplined people show up even when no one's watching. This is the real secret. The money follows the identity, not the other way around. When you become the kind of person who builds wealth, the wealth builds itself. When you try to build wealth while staying the same person, you'll always find a way to sabotage it. So here's where you need to be honest with yourself. What fear-based decisions are you making right now because you lack a cushion? Are you staying in a job that's draining you because you can't afford to leave? Are you avoiding conversations about money because you're ashamed of where you are? Are you saying no to opportunities that could change your life because you're terrified of risk? These are the hidden costs of not having $20,000. They don't show up on a bank statement, but they show up in your posture, in your confidence, in the way you move through the world. And here's another question. Where are you spending your mental energy? Are you obsessing over $3 questions? The price of coffee, the cost of a subscription, the small, easy wins that make you feel responsible but change nothing? Or are you focused on $30 questions, your career trajectory, your investment strategy, the skills that could double your income? Most people spend 90% of their energy on $3 questions and wonder why their financial situation never changes. They clip coupons while ignoring negotiations. They skip lattes while staying in underpaid positions. They optimize pennies while hemorrhaging potential. The math doesn't work. Your time and attention are finite. If you spend them on small optimizations, you'll get small results. If you spend them on leverage points, everything shifts. There's a concept called the snowball effect, and most people misunderstand it. They think it's about momentum, about small actions adding up over time, but they forget the most important part. A snowball only grows when it's rolling downhill. If you're standing on flat ground, it doesn't matter how much snow you pack together. It's not going anywhere. The first $20,000 is how you get to the top of the hill. It's the climb that nobody sees, the part that doesn't look impressive, the part that makes you question if any of this is worth it. But once you reach it, gravity takes over. Compound interest takes over. The snowball starts rolling and picking up mass without you having to push as hard. That's when wealth stops being about sacrifice and starts being about strategy. That's when you graduate from defense to offense. So maybe the question isn't, how do I save $20,000? Maybe the question is simpler than that. Who do you want to become? Because the money is just a mirror. It reflects your habits, your priorities, your relationship with your future self. And right now, that mirror is showing you something. The only question is whether you're brave enough to look at it and then change what you see.